boys and girls. Today's book is called Aunt Flossie's Hats and Crab Cakes Later. I'll let you look at the cover. Remember, all this week we're talking about stories that have memories in them, right? They're realistic books, they're realistic fiction. Some of them have been true stories, so everything in the story can happen. And they've usually been about a special memory, and the author wrote about them, which is pretty cool, I think. It's nice to see some real life stuff happen in books and kind of hear about someone's childhood. So this story is about these two girls that visit their great aunt, and she lets them try on her different hats. If you notice, these hats are really beautiful and kind of unique. And she tells them stories when they try on her hats. So that's the special memory of this story. It was written by Elizabeth Fitzgerald Howard, and the paintings or illustrations are by James Ransom. Do you remember what the author does? They write the story. So the illustrator, or paintings as they said, do the pictures in the story. All right, I hope you enjoy it. Sit back and relax. Here's the first picture. On Sunday afternoons, Sarah and I would go see great-great-Aunt Flossie. Sarah and I loved Aunt Flossie's house. It is so crowded full of stuff and things, books and pictures, lamps and pillows, plates and trays, and old dried flowers, and boxes and boxes and boxes of hats. Well, I can relate already, boys and girls. That's kind of how my grandma's house was, just filled with stuff. And you can tell these two little girls are excited to try on hats. On Sunday afternoons, when Sarah and I would go see Aunt Flossie, she says, "Come in, Susan. Come in, Sarah. Have some tea. Have some cookies. Later, we can get some crab cakes." Well, she seems like a really nice lady, huh? Kiddos, if you don't know what crab cakes are, it's crab meat and kind of like a patty almost. They're pretty good. We sip our tea and eat our cookies, and then Aunt Flossie lets us look in her hat boxes. We pick out hats and try them on. Aunt Flossie says they are her memories, and each hat has a story. What do you think the author means by that? How can a hat have a story? It doesn't have feelings and it can't talk. So how is that true? That's a tricky question. Kiddos, what I think the author means is the hat reminds her of a story, okay? So when she sees that hat, she goes, "Oh, I wore this and this happened and I was with them and I had a great time," right? So sometimes clothes or items can have memories. Do any of you have like a favorite stuffed animal or a baby blanket? That's the same thing, right? It reminds you of being little, or maybe your mom and dad have some keepsakes of when you were a baby. It's the same thing, right? It just reminds us of a special time. Hats, 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 hats. A stiff black one with bright red ribbons, a soft brown one with silver buttons, thin floppy hats that hide our eyes, green or blue or pink or purple. Some have fur and some have feathers. Look, this hat is just one smooth, soft rose. But here's one with a trillion flowers. Aunt Flossie has so many hats. On Sunday afternoon, I picked out a woolly winter hat, sort of green maybe. Aunt Flossie thought a minute. Aunt Flossie almost always thinks a minute before she starts a hat story. "Just a little smoky smell now," she said. Sarah and I sniffed the hat too. "Smoky smell, Aunt Flossie?" "The big fire," Aunt Flossie said. "The big fire in Baltimore. Everything smelled of smoke for miles around, for days and days. Big fire didn't come near our house on Center Street, but we could hear the fire engines racing down St. Paul. Horsed hooves chattering, bells and whistles. Your great-grandma and I couldn't sleep. We grabbed our coats and hats and ran outside, worried about Uncle Jimmy's grocery store, worried about the terrapins and crabs. Big fire in Baltimore." So I'll let you go back a second, see the green hat, and then the aunt remembers when she wore that green hat. So she's telling when she was a little girl, there was a big fire, and that's the hat she had on, and it still smells like smoke. A terrapin, boys and girls, terrapins and crabs. Terrapins are like turtles. So I wonder why they're worried about the crabs and the turtles. Aunt Flossie closed her eyes. I think she was seeing long ago. I wondered about crab cakes. Did they have crab cakes way back then? Then Sarah sniffed Aunt Flossie's hat. No more smoky smell, she said, but I thought I could smell some, just a little. Let's look at Aunt Flossie. She's got her eyes closed and she's holding that hat. I think she's really trying to remember the memories that she has with those hats, right? So how do you think she feels? She's trying to remember all those great stories in her life. I'm sure some stories are good, right? And some might be bad memories. What does she think of the fire memory? She might remember being scared, right, or worried. Then Sarah tried a different hat, dark blue with a red feather. This one, Aunt Flossie, this one. Aunt Flossie closed her eyes and thought for a minute. Oh my, yes, my, what an exciting day. We waited, Sarah and I. What happened, Aunt Flossie? So you can tell the little girls really like hearing the stories behind the hats. Big parade in Baltimore. Ooh, a parade, said Sarah. We love parades. I made that hat, Aunt Flossie said, to wear to watch that big parade. Buglers bugling, drummers drumming, flags flying everywhere. The boys, the soldiers, back from France, marching up Charles Street proud. Everyone cheering, everyone clapping. The Great War is over. The Great War is over. So this is a really happy memory for her, right? Of when people came back from war. Let's have a parade, I said. Sarah put on the dark blue hat, and I found a red one with a furry pom-pom. We marched around Aunt Flossie's house. March with us, Aunt Flossie, I called, but she was closing her eyes. She was seeing long ago. Maybe she's dreaming about crab cakes, Sarah said. So I noticed Aunt Flossie always closes her eyes, right? When she's thinking about a story or a memory. So she must be kind of taking herself back. She's closing her eyes and she's thinking about that memory. Yeah. Then we looked in the very special box. Look, Aunt Flossie, here's your special hat. It was a big straw hat with pink and yellow flowers and a green velvet ribbon. Aunt Flossie's favorite best Sunday hat. It's our favorite story because we're in the story, and we can help Aunt Flossie tell it. Aunt Flossie smiled. One Sunday afternoon, she said, we're going out for crab cakes. Sarah and Susan, and Mommy and Daddy, I said. And Aunt Flossie, said Sarah. Aunt Flossie nodded. We're walking by the water, and the wind came. Let me tell it, I said. The wind came and blew away your favorite best Sunday hat. My favorite best Sunday hat, said Aunt Flossie, and it landed in the water. It was so funny, said Sarah. I didn't think so, said Aunt Flossie. So now they're telling a story where the little girls are in it. So they were walking, and then her hat flew away by the wind. And Daddy tried to reach it, I said, but he slid down in the mud. And Daddy looked really surprised, and everybody laughed. He couldn't rescue my favorite best Sunday hat, said Aunt Flossie. And Mommy got a stick and leaned far out, and she almost fell in. But she couldn't reach it either. The water rippled, and your favorite best Sunday hat just floated by like a boat. So the dad was trying to get in, he fell in, and the mom almost fell in. That is a funny story. Now comes the best part. I'll tell it, said Sarah. A big brown dog came. It was walking with a boy. May we help you, the boy asked. My dog Gretchen can get it. The boy threw a small stone, and it landed in Aunt Flossie's hat. Fetch, Gretchen, fetch. Gretchen jumped in the water, and she swam, and she got it. Gretchen got Aunt Flossie's hat. Hooray for Gretchen, we all jumped up and down. Hooray for Aunt Flossie's hat. But it was very wet, said Aunt Flossie. But it dried just fine, almost like new. My favorite best Sunday hat. I like that story, I said. So do I, said Sarah, and I like what happened next. We went to get the crab cakes. Crab cakes, said Aunt Flossie. What a wonderful idea. Sarah, Susan, telephone your parents. We'll go get some crab cakes right now. So why is the last story the girls' favorite? They like all her stories, but the last one about the dog getting the hat is their favorite. Do you know why? It's because they're in it, absolutely. So how do Sundays at Aunt Flossie's always end? They come over, they try on the hats, they hear about her stories, and then they go get some crab cakes. I think Sarah and I will agree about one thing. Nothing in the whole world tastes as good as crab cakes. But crab cakes taste best after stories. Stories about Aunt Flossie's hats. Oh, do you see what hat she has on? The end. What a really nice book, boys and girls. So these two little girls go visit their great-great-aunt, and she lets them try on her hats, and she tells them stories about when she wore that hat. That kind of reminds me of my grandma. I don't know about you, but I kind of connected to that book. My grandma would let me try on some of her stuff, mostly her jewelry, but it seemed so special to me when I was little. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story. We're going to talk about it now. Bye, guys.